Decisions, decisions, decisions. Hey guys, welcome back. Mindy here. So today we are comparing each iPhone 13 with each other so that you guys can make a better choice on which iPhone 13 to get. And so stay to the end for my recommendation. Now we're going to start with the iPhone 13 mini first, the smallest baby first. The mini really feels like a baby in my palms, and I love how small it is, how easy it is to hold. It comes in 5 different colors, and yes, pink is still my favorite because it's just so classy and it's like, wow, I just can't stop staring at the pink. Everyone who sees this pink are like instantly in love with this because of just how beautiful this is. Starts at 128 gigs at $699. This is a great upgrade from 64 gig, especially with better cameras means better photos and better videos. So it's great that now we have 128 gig for the base model. Now the display. The 13 mini has a brighter display than the 12 mini. It's a 5.4-inch Super Retina XDR display and it's super tiny. Like, I can basically just grab this in one hand and just have my whole hand holding this fully like that. For the bigger iPhone 13 Pro Max, I can't actually do that. So yes, we have a smaller notch right now for all the iPhone 13s, but it's only 20% smaller, so it's still very noticeable. It's not as clean as how a hole punch display or a full screen display would look like, but I don't think we're getting that anytime soon. They say next year, but fingers crossed, who knows, right? What I love most about the mini is that it's so tiny, so lightweight, so easy to hold. Kind of hard to believe that so much tech is actually packed into this tiny device. However, as good as that is, when it comes to actually using this small phone in my palms with 2 hands, that's where the problem comes. It's actually kind of hard to type with both thumbs, and when I do that, I find myself making a lot of mistakes just because of how small the screens are, and I feel like my thumbs are like crossing paths all the time and it's hard. I feel like my hands are too big for this phone. And even like watching content on this, it's not as satisfying as watching on a slightly bigger phone like 13 Pro or 13 Pro Max. If you're considering getting the mini, I would really highly suggest that you try it out in the stores before you get it, and don't just hold it. Actually turn on the phone and try typing on it. That's how you would actually know if it's for you or not for you. And if you're still into it, well, good news is this is incredibly powerful. It's powered by the A15 Bionic chip. It runs every app that you use very smoothly, even Lightroom. This has better cameras. Now you get all those new features like photographic styles, cinematic mode, 4K 60 FPS, Dolby Vision recording, and the sensor shift OIS. That was only previously available for the 12 Pro Max, and now it's available for every one of these phones, including the 13 mini, and that's just like mind-blowingly awesome because it feels so effortless, especially when I'm like walking like this and filming, and yet the video still comes out so elegant and smooth and non-shaky. And of course, we have to talk about cinematic mode. It's one of the coolest features, and I don't think any other smartphone brands or camera brands have made something quite like this. This then becomes the perfect device to use if you have any film projects to use for schools or any budget projects. And the cool thing is, if it doesn't switch focus to the subject of your choice, you can simply just go to Photos app and tap on where you want to focus on, and it will just focus there. Really loving this feature, and it's great that it's available on all the iPhone 13s, not just reserved for the Pros. But one thing about filming in cinematic mode is you might want to change the aperture. At wider apertures, the camera can't really sense my hair fully and simply blurs out part of my hair, and it makes the bokeh effect, the blurred effect, feel very fake. So lowering the aperture might make it look more realistic. So would I recommend this? Well, it's not the phone for me, no, because I can't use this with 2 hands, and that is actually just how I use my phones these days. I use it with 2 hands. I can't actually type quickly with just 1 thumb, but ultimately it's up to you. It's your preference, the way you use your phone, that's what matters. If you're looking for a super duper tiny phone that can do big powerful things, this is your guy. This little guy, this baby over here. It's just so nice to grip, but when you actually use it, it's not easy. So summary, I like the size, but I don't like to actually use it just because it's too small. And that brings me to my personal favorite, the iPhone 13. This. It has all this plus longer battery life, and most importantly, it fits so perfectly in my hands and still feels so light even though it's like bigger. The weight distribution of this, it's just so freaking light. You guys gotta try it out. With this, I can type with 2 thumbs like that super comfortably. This phone is just so much easier to hold, and that means easier on your fingers, easier to text. You don't have to do a weight lift each time you're going to text someone, like what it is like on the Pro Max. It's also so much easier to just flip out of your pocket and just turn on camera and just take a selfie or a photograph. I feel like this is sort of like the perfect size. I don't know why I didn't realize this before, but yeah, loving this size a lot. It also has the same 2-camera system as the Mini. Yes, it's one less than the Pro, but honestly, 2 lenses are more than enough. I honestly use the wide-angle lens more than the telephoto lens. And that's why I think for a lot of people, this 13 might be the perfect one for your everyday, day-to-day use. For $799, this is a pretty good deal. For $100 more, you get a bigger screen and a longer battery life. And what's important for me is that this fits so well in my hands, no complaints whatsoever. And that's why this is such an easy recommendation for anyone who needs a smartphone for texting, social media, taking photos, and of course picking up calls. But if you're someone who uses their phones for heavy photography and filmmaking, that's where we are looking at the Pros. The first thing that you notice about the Pros is that this is actually slightly heavier than the 13, even though they are same size, but this is 30 grams heavier. My day-to-day use of the 13 and the 13 Pro feels very similar. It's also powered by A15 Bionic chip, but 13 Pro has 5-core GPU while 13 has 4-core GPU. And this is to support the 120Hz ProMotion display as well as the Pro cameras. With the 120Hz adaptive ProMotion display, we're supposed to experience a very much smoother experience whenever we interact with the screen. Yes, I agree, response time is much faster, almost instantly, but I need to be honest with you, it actually took me quite a while to notice the difference between the 13 and 13 Pro when it comes to a smoother display, and I can think of 2 reasons. Firstly, being that Apple's animations are really so smooth, so well optimized that everything on the 13 feels very smooth to use, even though it doesn't have a 120Hz ProMotion display. There's never a lag whenever I'm using this. Every animation feels very smooth. I have no complaints whenever I'm using this. I think a lot of people would be happy with this. And the second reason is that app developers need to update their app to optimize to work well with the 120Hz ProMotion display. Because currently not all app developers have done that yet. ProMotion just works very well with the iOS interface and in the native Apple apps like Messages, Safari. Nevertheless, ProMotion display is still a very welcome upgrade, and it's only going to get better, especially when third-party app developers update their apps. The adaptive ProMotion display actually helps you save battery life. With this, your phone can reduce the refresh rate to as low as 10 Hz. Say, for example, you're reading and you don't need the display to update that many times. And this is also a reason why the battery life on this is almost 2 times longer than the 12 Pro. Another feature that I love on the iPhone 13 Pro is the brighter display. It's at 1000 nits instead of 800 nits. It's great because Singapore is sunny all year round, and it's nice to be able to read whatever that's on my phone when I'm walking outside in the hot sun. Yeah, now the cameras. You have all the great stuff from iPhone 13 like cinematic mode, photographic styles, and more. Next, macro photos. I cannot stress how much I love macro photography. I mean, I get to take really close-up shots of people and things. I've always been a fan of the scene from Twilight where Bella just became a vampire and she gets to see every detail super clean in super high resolution. And with macro photos and macro videos on the iPhone 13 Pro, I get to do all of that without spending thousands of dollars on a huge macro lens for my Sony cameras. So I think that's pretty awesome. I mean, haven't you guys ever wondered how your eyes look like up close and blown up into like a big image, or how dirty your fingers actually are, like on a microscopic level? Well, if you guys are into all of that stuff, this can do that. I'm very excited to see the kinds of things people film with the macro lens, and if you see anything interesting or you film anything interesting, tag me. I want to see it. And talking about night photography, this performs much better under low light conditions than the 13s. Of course, this has a wider f1.5 aperture, but if you really want the best night shots, mount your iPhone on a tripod to take advantage of night mode. I still don't like using my iPhone to take night photos just because it's not as good as my Sony cameras, but one way around that is to actually get a small light like this. This is such a lifesaver. It's so small, so tiny and compact. You can bring this out anywhere with you, and it just makes your night photos so much better with just this single light source. Another interesting thing to test out would be the ProRes video recording on the Pros. This is not available on the 13s, just the Pro series. This is the ProRes video shot on the iPhone 13 Pro. It's already looking great without any edits. Applying a color adjustment layer over it. Next, we'll compare it to a non-ProRes video. First thing I noticed is that the raw files looked very similar, but when you throw a color adjustment layer over them, there's actually more details in the ProRes files, so you do have more control when you're doing the color edits. Secondly, if you zoom into this, you can see that the ProRes footage is slightly sharper than the non-ProRes files. Third, editing ProRes files is supposed to be way faster than non-ProRes footage, but both files felt equally smooth when I'm editing on the new 14-inch MacBook Pro, but editing might be slightly slower on an older Mac. Finally, do note that ProRes footage does take up a lot of space. This 49-second ProRes clip took about 4 gigs of space, while this 1-minute non-ProRes footage took 400 megabytes. So if you're someone who does a lot of ProRes video recording, you might want to go for more storage on your iPhone. I don't think I'll be using it that much because everything that I film on my iPhone just goes on the social media, and I don't think my editing hard drives have enough space to store all that ProRes footage. But of course, it is nice to have, and if I ever find myself needing it, at least I know I have it on my iPhone. Now, moving on to this. Now, 13 Pro and 13 Pro Max are the exact same phone, all except for the size and the battery life. And that's good because if you're deciding between these two phones, the question to ask is if you want a bigger screen. Are you doing a lot of work on your 13 Pro Max? Are you getting a lot of readings done here? Are you editing a lot of photos? Are you watching a lot of content on the 13 Pro Max? If your answer is yes to most of these questions, then go for the 13 Pro Max. For me, I came from the 12 Pro Max, and so the 13 Pro Max feels very natural. It feels quite similar to this, although this is still slightly heavier. But when I'm comparing these two, I've been using these two phones interchangeably for the past 2 weeks, comparing them, testing them, playing with them. And this is something I realized I don't actually need a bigger screen on the 13 Pro Max. In fact, this is the perfect size for me. Most books and articles that I read on my phone can be done perfectly well on the 13 Pro. In fact, it's actually even better because I can actually hold in one hand comfortably without hurting any of my fingers and just scrolling through it. Also, it's so much easier to hold this phone and read when I'm in bed like that. It just doesn't drop onto my face that often anymore, unlike the 13 Pro Max. And for watching content, yes, bigger screen is always good, but my friend Kim also pointed out that if I'm watching series content, I don't usually go to my phones for it. I would either use my computer screen or go to the TV. Yeah, I don't actually need the bigger screen for anything except maybe like if I want to get a drone shot and I need to use my phone to control, yeah, maybe a bigger phone would be better, but I haven't been flying drones for like at least 2 years. For a phone, I want convenience. I love how much lighter the 13 Pro is compared to the 13 Pro Max. It's so much easier to just flip it out, take a call, check my phone for any messages, reply anything, and also to flip it out and film myself or take a selfie, which I do a lot. It's so easy to just hold this and get it done in one hand without straining my fingers. This feels effortless. Whereas for the 13 Pro Max, you actually have to grip on it really tightly and make sure it just doesn't fall out of your claw here to take a photo. Otherwise, the drop will be disastrous. This feels so much easier to hold as compared to this. And yeah, there we go. But yep, that is all. I hope this was helpful for you to make your choice about which iPhone 13 to get. And let me know if you have any questions. I'll leave all the links in the description below, so be sure to check that out. Take care, stay maintained, cherry. Goodbye. Oh my god, it's heavy.